Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Design Works for Ninja Empire. Today we are going to be focusing on an asset instead of an actual character. So this one is going to be a shorter video, but it goes through my process of trying to create a major element of a character that isn't the character, right? So the Black Dragon's arm is metallic, so it's a cybernetic arm that he had to get because he had his arm cut off in the betrayal that starts his story. And so for me as a comic book guy, as you saw the pictures of Colossus, I was like, oh yeah, we can just do that. It's real easy. We got the arm, the segmented arm, we can do shadows and highlights and stuff like that, and it'll be great. And so I drew it a couple times before I started streaming, and then I did it once again when I started streaming, and I was like, you know what? The problem I'm having with that is that it's very magical. It doesn't actually work because it's supposed to be all metal, and metal doesn't bend that way unless we, just go, nah, it's magic, right? It just is, or this person is that way. And I wanted my mechanical arm to be rooted more in some type of reality so that form follows function. So when you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, I can see how that would work. And that was very important to me. But even with that, so if you saw from just the Colossus arm to the next one, the bicep part was still that segmented arm where it was just like, oh, here are my lines and whatnot. But I started taking elements from the Colossus arm and then adding elements to go, okay, this would be on top of the forearm, this is where the elbow is, this is how we rotate this. And then I did that and was like, okay, that one's all right. Let's see what else we can do. I looked up some robot arms and I'm like, oh, I'll make it a robot arm. And then like, no, that's too clunky because he's supposed to be a ninja, so having that's not going to work for his character. And I just kept going where I would take elements, right? And be like, oh, okay, well, here's this, here's that. Let's pull this one from over here and attach it to over here. Let's pull this one. And it's a really good design process. That's why people say you should draw and draw and draw. So if you have an idea, put it on paper, scribble it out, draw it. Put it on paper, scribble it out, because you will start taking elements from different ones and go, this was really cool, and this was really cool, and let me put it together, and eventually you'll come up with something that you really like and works for what you're trying to do. And that, I think, it was key in this particular asset, this mechanical robot arm, is because if you look at the final product, then you start seeing that it was, oh, well, yeah, that was from the first design, and this is from the sixth design, and that element is from the fifth design, and you start putting stuff together. And for me, it was a really cool process to actually come up with this arm that way, instead of just going, here's my arm, that's it, or it's a robot arm, whatever. Also, I started taking elements that I knew I wanted to have represented. So it's a ninja arm, and a lot of my characters will have the uniform, the ninja uniform, and it has the hand guard, so it's just a cloth that goes over to conceal the hand, so you have less to see, and so I wanted to have that represented in this arm as well. So there's that extra, piece of metal that overlaps the rest of his fingers, right? And that was just me going, here's my nod to that uniform. Same thing as what's going on right now. Like, I wanted to add an element of like a samurai armor. Not that he is a samurai, but just because that visually instantly connects people to like ninjas and samurai and the Asian culture and stuff like that. And so by doing that, I was like, oh, I'm gonna add this, and I'm still gonna make it look mechanical, but it gives people an understanding of where they are. And that's one of the big things when it comes to like world building and stuff like that, is that it has to be rooted in reality somewhere, somehow, because no matter how fantastical your story is, you have to make sure that people can relate to it in some way. And so for me, I was going off of a visual language, a shape language that already exists, that allows people to instantly know what kind of setting they're going to jump into. I think with the mechanical arm, they're like, okay, that's fantasy and sci-fi. And then with these repeating armor plates, they can go, oh yeah, that's probably a samurai, reference to the samurai. So, I'm hoping that comes across even in its subtlety. And one of the hardest parts for me was trying to figure out what kind of color, and the rest of this is all about trying to figure out what kind of color I was gonna use, because his colors are red, black, and white. I like glowy bits. What was I gonna do? And we just moved on from there. I really enjoyed this process, and I hope you did too, and you'll get to see the final arm in the next episode.